Hi, and welcome to the Family Fall History of Elon event. I'm Crystal Carpenter. I'm the coordinator of University Archives, aka I'm in charge of the archives here at Elon, and I'm going to be hosting this event with my lovely panelists. Panelists, tell us a little bit about your role and connection to Elon and how long you've been associated with Elon.
Well, I'm probably the oldest, so I'm going to start. I've been a part of Elon for most of my adult life. I started teaching here when I think I was 25 or 26. I had taught a couple of years at another college before going back to get a PhD, but I came here in '69, and my husband, George Troxler, actually started teaching in '69, and I started teaching in '70. My name is Carol Troxler, and I taught history until 2003, and I'm now a professor emerita at Elon.
Thank you. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm Jane Daniely Shutt, and Carol said she was the oldest, but I actually have been around the Elon family the longest.
Yes, you have.
I was born into the Elon family in 1959 and loved to be part of the Elon family even to today. My dad was the 6th president of Elon College then. And so from the time I came home from the hospital until I went to college, I lived within a half a block of the walls around Elon. And still maintain close relationships with the Elon community.
Thank you. We're glad you're here too. Michael.
Greetings. I'm Michael Williams. I'm currently serving as director of the Mosley Center, the heart of campus. And from that, I've been here almost 22 years, serving in this similar role, same role, different title. But so I just, I'm glad to be able to speak during this homecoming time, because it is one of my most favorite times of the year.
Fantastic. This is a off the topic kind of question, but was it Mosley Center when you started? Have you always been in Mosley?
It was the Mosley Center, but my title was different. It was the director of campus center operations, and we've kind of migrated and modified, and it's more centralized in the Mosley Center now.
Perfect. So I'm going to kick us off with our first question, and some of it has already been answered. But when you first arrive on campus, or when you're old enough to remember campus, what were your first impressions, and what was campus like then for you? And how's it changed over the years?
Okay, so I've got the oldest memories of this one. So when I was born and grew up, the Elon campus was mostly contained within the brick wall. There was a little bit outside of it, but really the great majority of Elon's campus was within the brick wall. And we lived, the president's house at that time when I was first born was beside the community church. So we lived on Williamson, and the campus was my playground. It was a kind of an odd childhood in that I had a lot of adult friends. So one of my favorite things growing up was to stop in the middle of Alamance where there was a switchboard. And Nancy Thomas ran the switchboard, and she knew everything that went on in the campus. And so I would frequently stop by there and get the latest little bit of news or gossip that might be happening on the college campus. And she was very kind to talk to a young girl for a long time. And so campus was much more compact then, and obviously a lot smaller as far as students and staff were concerned.
I think the first building that was actually built outside of the campus walls was under your father's tenure, if I remember correctly, Alumni Gym, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well, Alumni came before that. He didn't do that, but he did. And the building's not there anymore. But in front of the lake, he did some of the dormitory buildings that are not there anymore. Kind of where Global is now.
My impression, well, number one, it was very warm and friendly. It was a nice place to be, but it was so small. I had never experienced a small college. I had been in two large universities, and I remember walking around campus and just looking at the building and thinking, this is a real college. Look, they've got a library, they've got a gym, they've got a dining hall, they've got everything a college needs. But I had never realized that a college could be that small, which was, just a catch-up time for me. And one of the first things that I realized is that there was a closeness, and because it was so small, you could do some things that you couldn't do after it got larger. Like, for example, if you wanted to buy something and pay the state contract price for it, you could buy it through Elon. Mr. Buster Butler would let you do that. So I think we probably bought a few lamps and maybe some lawn chairs and, just various things. It was just very routine. There was nothing subterranean about it. Everybody knew about it and did it. And I thought of it being basically a European historian, I thought of it as Elon manorialism. That was a good thing. It wasn't feudalism, but it was manorialism. And I even remember not maybe at first, but a little later, after I knew people better and realized with what affection and respect Dr. Danieli was held, which of course I participated in. I thought of him, and I told him years later, I thought of him as the Earl of Elon.
That's great. But it was amazing, as small as it was then, the enormous talent that existed on the faculty, just real scholars for such a small institution.
Yes, that was part of my realization too, that these aren't people hiding away in some little college in the bushes somewhere. These are frontline academicians, and the performing. We didn't have a theater department, but we had good drama that came out of, I guess it was the English department. And of course, we had programs coming in from the outside, but Elon itself produced some really high quality things. And I remember thinking, well, this is like living in Chapel Hill or in Athens, as far as having access to performances in the arts and lectures and programs. So yeah, it had everything that a college needed. It was just small.
Now, Michael, I won't say you're the newcomer because I've only been here 5 years, but relatively, talk about.
Yeah, everything's relative.
Yeah.
As the folks were talking, I was just kind of thinking about some of my first impressions. And I remember interviewing, when I interviewed here, how the beauty of the school and the camaraderie of the staff that I met with was excellent. And I remember doing a PowerPoint presentation during my interview, and the computer messed up. And I was like, oh no. However, one of the staff members, he's gone now, but he jumped right in, fixed the computer, and I continued with my presentation. So I was just really hopeful and thankful for that. So I left and then didn't hear a while. So I got another call back after that I did receive the job. And so I was thankful for that. So I think one of the things is the people, and we can always talk about, and it sounds cliche-ish, but I do believe it's about relationships and what we build and how we can work together to achieve goals. And this, of course, is currently going on now. The university is a little larger, of course, but it's still about relationships and how we work together. And I was just thinking about another event, and I can't remember the exact date when the Belk Library opened. You can tell me that.
2000. Mm-hmm.
What year was that?
It was 2000. Mm-hmm.
2000. So
Yep.
I remember they created a human chain from McEwen all the way to Belk. And I was actually near Dr. Danley in that chain. So we symbolically passed books from McEwen all the way to Belk to signify the opening. So I thought that was a really cool event. And I know Elon likes to commemorate and celebrate, accomplishments, and that was a huge one.
So Michael, did he tell you the story then of moving the books into McEwen Library while you were standing there?
He did not, because I think we were just kind of buzzing around, but I'm
surprised.
He's got stories. He even had stories. Before I worked here, I worked at a small school in Kentucky, and he knew people there and was naming streets. And I was so impressed, like, how does he know all this and remember all this? Mm-hmm. I was just in awe. So, yeah.
So it was really cool when they opened McEwen Library, the library before the one now, in 1968. Members of the community and faculty and students all got together, and we took loads of books. And for every load of books that you took from one library to the other, you got a ticket, and you got 10 tickets together, and you could have a steak dinner. So I was like 9 at the time, and so I had my little red wagon, and we'd load up our little red wagon, and I'd take trips back and forth so I'd get my steak dinner. But we moved 67,000 books that day from the old library into the new one. So I was really glad that they symbolically had that when they moved into what I think of as the new library now.
Yeah. We have footage of the move online on the archives website, and it's fantastic to see. You see like people just piling up books to their chins, walking into the building, and the librarian, which at that time was very stereotypically librarian, was like, but it went smoothly. All the books got in there, and there's some really great footage, and I want pictures of you with that wagon.
Yeah,
I'll see what I can find for you.
Yeah. All of these things make me think about when I had my interview. So it was about 5.5 years ago, and I was actually 6 months pregnant, and I was so concerned about like coming to campus, being pregnant, and but like from the get-go, like the warmness, the community, like at that interview, like you knew Elon was a special place just from that day and a half. And at first I was like, coming from big academic institutions, I'm like, is this real? Like, am I stepping into like something? Like, I just wasn't sure. And then I got the job, and lo and behold, like it really is all that it lives up to be. I mean, the community here is fantastic, and I've heard stories about when we were smaller, and faculty and staff, they all had so many roles. They might not just do, you might not just teach, you might do X, Y, and Z. You might not just work in the library, you might do X, Y, and Z, work with parking, do things like that. And it's true today. I mean, our roles are more defined, but we all come together to help out one another with things. And the silos like are so low if there are compared to places I've been before. So there really is something special about the community and the relationships here at Elon. So I really thank you for sharing some of those. And with that, Elon, it is a unique community, and it's central to who we are. So it's no surprise that, these connections with the campus last decades. And you can see that here from some of the conversations. Could each of you share a little bit more of your story about like something related to the Elon?
So for me, it's obviously been about family from the very beginning. My parents were both students at Elon. My dad was hired to teach on the faculty the fall after he graduated from Elon, which is a little unusual. And then he worked on his graduate degrees while he was teaching. But so my mom and dad met at Elon, and I'll tell a quick story because it's just so fun the way they met. My dad was walking through the halls of Alamance on a Saturday. My mom was serving as the secretary to the president then, Dr. Smith, and he was also a pastor. And so she was printing the church worship bulletin on Saturday afternoon. And as my dad's walking down the hall, he sees her standing on a chair. And so he stops to ask what was going on, and she had seen a mouse. And so he gallantly rescued her from the mouse, and their love story then went on from there, and they were married 63 years. But I think so the community for us goes way, way back. My dad never went, he did some postdoc work, but he never worked anywhere else. He was on the staff of Elon, either teaching or dean or president for 70 years. And so we've always been part of Elon. Matter of fact, when it came time for us, I have two older brothers, when it came time for us to go to college, we had to go somewhere else because we went to church with professors. We lived next door to professors. Everybody would have been in our business, and that's not something you want as a college student. So all of us went away to school. But then my husband and I were very proud that all three of our sons came to Elon and graduated from there and got to have class with Granddaddy, which was just, you see how much it means to me. That it's just, it's something that you just don't get. When my dad was in his later years after my mom died, he had students who came and lived with him. He was a people person, and he just got lonely being in a house by himself. So he had a couple of students who came and lived with him. And when they went out of town, basketball players from the team would come and stay with him overnight. And he'd take them to breakfast at Cracker Barrel the next day, and it worked out great for everybody. He had company, and they had a big breakfast. But that's the kind of community that Elon is. It is truly our family. I can't go anywhere. I have a Elon mom sticker on the back of my car, and I can't go anywhere and somebody goes, "Oh, did you go to Elon?" I said, "No, my kids went to Elon, and you may have known my dad." And it is just so much fun to go to. We have a son who lives in New York, and we'll run into people in New York. We've run into people everywhere who have some kind of Elon connection. We were walking on the beach with my husband in August, and I had an Elon hat on, and a guy got up out of his chair and said, "Oh, did you go to Elon?" And we had to stop and talk to Elon about Elon on the beach. It's just one of those very special places that people are proud to be part of.
Mm. Well, I started noticing the changes big time when the library went digital. Now, Elon was already growing, and it was already expanding its offerings and getting more, shall we say, sophisticated. But getting the library catalog online and being able to reach it from my office was just totally a game changer for me, because this seems so crude now, but I could sit in my office with my students during office hours, and we could look at what's in the library, and we could research this and that and the other and figure out, well, here's something that you can use for the paper you're researching, and let's see what we've got with that. And of course, very soon to go to other places as well. And at first, office computers, or at least mine, were not on the web. I mean, we didn't have any pictures. It was on something called Telnet. So it was all text, but you could do many of the things that you can do online now. You just didn't have any pictures with it. But that was a great leap forward as far as I was concerned. And that first library catalog, I remember it was called, the initials were IRIS, IRIS,
Yeah.
because it was in the Iris Holt McEwen Library.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just really a game changer. And then, of course, later, when we got NC Live. Oh my goodness. As a classroom teacher, I thought I died and gone to heaven, because you could just get to all these text things that we did not have in our library, and you could get to them and you could show students how to get to them. So it really upped my game as far as I'd always worked one-on-one with students. I mean, that's the only way I know how to teach, really. So I'd always done that, but you could do so much more with those new things. So that's when I saw, I mean, obviously the world was changing, but Elon was keeping up. That was a good thing.
Michael, what about you? What kind of, maybe we talked a little bit about community, but over your time here.
Well, as everybody been talking about, a lot of things have been coming to mind, and I think about how the community supported me in the time when my mother and brother passed away within 12 hours of each other. My mother was here and my brother was in Texas, and I was in a tizzy, and I had to fly out to Texas, and I didn't have the money at that time. So the university, the Chaplains Fund really helped me with that, to have the money on a moment's notice to go out there and, you know, for my brother's service. So, and that point of love just in general during my mother's funeral here, and, you know, afterwards was a testing to what, you know, Elon's about. So I'm a Elon, I'm rah, I'm a fan. So and in another way, I'm a fan as well. I remember when the team played at the Williams High School. And another side story, I went to Carson Newman College in Tennessee, and I played football against Elon at Williams High School years ago. So you never know where you're going to be in life. So make sure you don't burn bridges. But I remember when the games were down there, but when we got to stadium, we got Rose Stadium, the collegiality, the feel of we've moved up. You know, we've moved up and we're going in the right direction. And I think it gave the university a sense of, you know, even more pride that we have an on-campus facility, and we can use that and we can be proud of it. So.
Yeah, I have to say, I the fall is one of my favorite seasons here, not only because it's beautiful, of course, but because of football and things like that. And the Road Stadium is just a fantastic place to come and watch some games. And I have a young family, and like, it's just the best. The environment. My little girl can stand really close to where the cheerleaders are, and she copies them and then watches the games. And yeah, so the community is pervasive, you know, whether you're in the classroom or if you're on the field. And so there's a lot of different athletic stories we could share. And Jane, I hope you are ready to share one of your great athletic stories.
Yeah, so I think that's probably one of the biggest changes I've seen in the university over the years, is going from football in the high school stadium in Burlington to having a magnificent stadium on campus, and to see the changes, particularly in student participation, that has made. That's just been incredible. More recently, to see basketball move from Alumni Gym to go to the Shar Center. I mean, wow, that's incredible. To see, we had an old rickety wooden baseball stadium across from the fire department for years, and to see the facility now. I mean, so the changes in athletics has just been incredible. When I grew up, Elon's football team won a national championship. They had a player that go on to play for the Green Bay Packers, which was, I mean, an Elon guy playing pro was just amazing. But we spent, so I was the youngest, and so I ended up going with my parents to all these things. My brothers could stay home, but I had to go, I went with them. So I went to lots and lots of games, and we traveled to other schools to see. But I think, so a couple of things about athletics. one of my dad's proudest days was is the football game when they recognize student athletes and how they excel. And they line up on the football field from like goal line to goal line. And to see how many athletes are excelling in their academics also is just so very impressive, because athletics takes a lot of your time. And so to be able to excel in academics at the same time, I can't tell you how many times I've heard him say, this is my favorite day to see this good students and good athletes lined up on the field. And of course, the probably the sweetest thing, and we'll get a drink of water so I won't cry.
Sorry, I also
No guarantee, I'm a crier. The sweetest thing in basketball, in 2005, my parents were at the game, and basketball game, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, students started chanting my dad's name. He had no idea what was going on, what he should do. Anyway, he kind of stood up and waved. Well, that became a thing. So at every home game and some of the away games, if there was a good student section there, about 10 minutes left to go in the game, they would stand up and start chanting his name. And he got to the place where he was prepared, and he would bring a hanky or a towel or something, so he could, kind of a rally towel kind of thing, that he would wave. That was so cool for him. He just loved it. He loved the students, and they loved him. It was so awesome. So there was a basketball game the night after he died. And of course, Elon being the family it is, that's what we did, was our family went to the basketball game. And the people there did the most lovely tribute to him in doing the chant again. And I'll never forget that, because talk about community. And then the crowd at the end, the basketball players came by and hugged me. And the crowd stood there in silence, in tribute to Dad while they were doing that. That's more than community. That really is truly family. And I'll never forget that. So occasionally I get chances to come back like this. I get chances to come back, and I sometimes go back and talk to students, first-year students, when they move. Got to do it on Zoom this year, so it wasn't quite the same. But last year when I came to speak to some students, they surprised me and did the Daniel E. chant for me and waved the towels. And it's just so cool. It's just a legacy, a tradition, a way of honoring my dad that is so very Elon.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, if I could, I may add just one more thing to that everybody got a towel that night, and I still have mine.
Yeah. It was so precious. So precious.
Yeah. Mine's pinned up in my on my wall in my laundry room. So and most people come in my house, coming through the garage and the laundry room, and that's the first thing that they see is that Daniel E. rally towel.
Yes.
So we kind of mentioned it a little bit. I mean, student athletes, I'm sure you all have experience with students. Can you share some of your fond memories, recollections, just about what our student body is like, and some of everyone like interacts with them in different ways. Michael, you probably see students day in, day out more than the rest of us, and Carol taught students. Jane, you interact with them on move-in day and other things. Can you share some of your perspectives on the student body?
Well, I remember for a long time watching the softball team, which of course was a women's softball team. I was interested in it, but I'm not a wonderful sports fan in terms of actually going and sitting down and going through. I mean, I'm just not, sorry. And I might not have really gone to a softball game, except that one of my students told me one day, she said, you really ought to come to our softball, because I knew she played softball. And I'd been talking with her about softball and how it was going and that sort of thing. She said, well, you really ought to come. And I thought, well, yeah, I really ought to go. So I took my towel to sit on the ground because there's no place to sit. And I started going to softball games with my towel and, late in the afternoon. And that was great fun. I enjoyed the interaction with the students as well as the game. But when we finally got a softball stadium, oh, yes, that was a really big deal. And I had a lot of relationships with students who were athletes. And I guess the most surprising one is I had a student from Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is a place that I've been many times for weeks at a time to do historical research, because much of what I do involves the use of the public archives of Nova Scotia there. So he was taking my class. He was on the golf team. In fact, he was particularly recruited for the golf team. And of course, we talked about Halifax and that sort of thing. And it occurred to me there was a new collection of documents, a small collection, but a new collection of documents that had come to the archives that related to what I was interested in. And I, of course, had not seen it, and I couldn't go up there just to see one collection. So I asked him, I said, this summer when you're home, think about going by the archives, and I'll give you the direct instructions for what to look at and what to look for. And I'll write the archivist and make sure that this is okay thing to do. And he said, well, who is the archivist? And I told him, and he said, oh, I play golf with him. So yes, he examined those documents for me, made a few photocopies, and that was great. But that wasn't something that I expected to ask a student to do, athlete or not. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm currently on the History and Memory Committee, and we're re-examining Elon history and wanting to uncover more history that has been neglected. And what I've seen is the student body not only doing some excellent research to help us uncover some histories and stories, but the inquisitive nature and the questioning and the just the pulling out of conversations around these things. And I don't know, the student body just blows me away with their inquisitiveness and their thoughtful approach to things. So I just had to pop that in real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And we got into student research a long time before we had SURF. Now, I have been delighted with SURF all along, but I know faculty were doing independent research projects with students for a long 10 years or so before SURF, and that was just something that you did. If a student was interested in a particular thing, then you could provide an avenue for them to research it. And I don't know that, well, I'm sure that there's some colleges where that could have been done, but nobody really questioned that. You gave a plan, of course. You wrote out a plan and a program to do it and how it would be evaluated and all that kind of thing. But, it was encouraged in a way that personal research was not encouraged, but that's okay. I mean, you go with the flow.
Well, I've been fortunate to, be acquainted with a lot of students over the years, and name all the students. Of course, I forget names sometimes. Can I use names during this if I remember the names? Is that okay? I need a disclaimer or anything, but a couple of students that stand out, and one was an athlete who was in my Elon 101 class with he and one of his friends, and he kept saying, I'm gonna do big things, I'm gonna make it. And I was like, I wasn't sure about that. I was like, okay, you need to even get through this Elon 101 class first. But making a long story short, he did. Aaron Millette got drafted
Oh,
by
yeah.
the Ravens, and it was the first year I was like, well, because we had conversations about him getting redshirted, and he was kind of depressed, and I told him my story. I got redshirted my first year, and I said, look at it as a positive, not a negative. And so he, so you know how that turned out, getting drafted and breaking a lot of records at the university. So.
Yeah, the community really does extend to the students, and that's one of the gifts that kind of keeps on giving, because they come back and you see what they're doing, or now you follow them on Twitter or whatever. And some of my former students are, one's a lawyer, one's out doing, was a comm student, is doing great work out in Seattle. One's in Arizona, doing reporting and stuff like that. And it's so rewarding to see how they grow and change over the 4 years, and then how they then go out and contribute to society. I mean, that's one of the great things about working on a college campus, right? And it makes you feel like you stay young too. Like, I feel like I must still be in college, right? And then I realize that slang, they'll use a word, I'm like, I don't know what that means. Old now, but yeah, being on a college campus is just fantastic, and it's really the students.
It's a privilege to be a part of people's lives during that age period, because so much is happening, so much is changing. They're making so many decisions, and even if you don't have a role in making the decisions or building them up, though in many cases individuals do, but even if you don't, they know you're there. They know that if they need to talk to you, they can.
I think for me, looking back over the 60 years, watching how the student body has changed. So when I was first born, it was very much of a local institution. Students came, you didn't travel very far to come to Elon, and all white. And my dad admitted the first Black student in 1963. My dad was known for kind of doing his own thing whenever he wanted to do it. And it was much different administration then, and so he would just kind of do things. So he didn't ask the board of trustees before he admitted. He just told the admissions office to watch for a qualified student, and then admit her. And so the board of trustees found out about it when trustees members saw a person of color on the campus and came to his office to ask about it. But then when I fast forward, and 60 years is not that long a time in an institution and in our country, when I look now at students from every state in the country and so many international students, and the diversity there, I'm just very proud of that part of the student community, because I think we learn so much from each other, from different backgrounds, different cultures, that I think brings a richness to the student body life, to be able to interact with so many different people. So I'm very proud of Elon for that too.
Yeah, and I'm really proud to see the new initiatives that are going on also to really not only recruit but maintain and give a better quality of life really for faculty, students, and staff.
Absolutely.
So yeah, speaking of transforming, my last question I was going to really ask, and we've kind of talked about it, but was this transformation. Elon is known for its transformations. And all of you probably span presidents as well. So can you share a little bit more about the university's transformation over the decades, any stories you share about presidents or anything like that?
Well, the institution has changed so much. I mean, I just can't tell you. So from my dad had one vice president in the administration. I oftentimes, when his secretary would go on vacation in the summertime, I would answer the phone in the president's office as a high school student. It was just a much different, much smaller, intimate, and so then when he retired and went back to teaching in '73, and Dr. Young was president, he did such marvelous things for growth for the institution. As long as my dad kept a lot of the power, there was going to be some limits as to what he could achieve also. And Dr. Young kind of spread that out over some more talent. And so that's just been amazing. It just every president has brought their own touch to the institution, and it has been amazing. So for a long time in my family, because I live in Charlotte, so I don't always get back very often. But we would say, every time you go visit, you've got to go drive through campus because there's going to be something else different. And if you don't go every 2 months, you're going to miss a whole building going up. But I love the learning communities that have sprung up. I love the emphasis on student life that has happened. I think there's just so many great opportunities for the students to be involved. We've already talked about the study abroad program has just boomed. I mean, my dad started that 414 schedule in his presidency, which gave you that month of January to do some things, but to see how that has the creativity that now goes into some of those classes that are offered in January are just amazing. But then the study abroad program, the opportunities that are available for students now, internships, it's just the broadness, I guess, of the opportunities that are available to students now, even since my kids started like 19 years ago. Every year there's something new and exciting and that really are making our students now be not only very well educated, but very good and responsible citizens too. And so I just think I'm just excited every bit of it to see the transformation that happens.
I haven't been here as long as Carol and Jane around the institution, but what I think about is that the excellent leadership and vision that the university has had. I got here a little bit before Dr. Lambert did, maybe several months. And, from that point on, I could see the leadership, the vision, the ability to share the wealth and spread out responsibility around the campus and letting people, excel in the areas that they have expertise in. And that's what is really made, and being financially smart as well. That's what make along with that and keeping, the spirit of collegiality and family in mind, I think that's what has made this university grow and excel. And the people want to come. I know when I first got here, people were saying that, they were worried about admissions and having enough, enrollment and things. And I think, and we was doing all kind of things, camps and things like that to make sure we could, have a broader range of prospective students. And not saying we don't have, it's not tough now, but we don't have to do those things anymore. We've got a solid foundation. So again, I think the leadership and vision and has what made this university grow and continue to move forward.
Thank you. So before we close, I just want to ask everyone if there's anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share, kind of a open-ended, like with, parting, not every parting words, but, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you would love to share with families? from your experience?
Well, I'll add one thing. We are community, and a big part of our community at Elon from the beginning has been the interaction with the historically African American neighborhood that we now know as Ballpark. Of course, for decades and decades, that was a very unequal relationship, as we all realize. And now we are in an opportunity to really embrace their history and our shared time together. And I've been from time to time working on trying to find the origins of that particular community, and I haven't connected all the dots, but the main thing is that from what I do know, that community is older than Elon. It wasn't called Ballpark, obviously, until there was the ballpark there. But an African American community where Elon is located predates Elon College and predates Mill Point, where the founding fathers decided to put Elon. And that's a very important part of our area history. I won't get into the details there, but that's something that I want to see us embrace more and more. And I know that there has been some action to recognize individuals who have been a part of the university for a long time. For example, Mr. Pinckney Comer, for whom the ballpark was named Comer Field, very important person in the university's life, and other people as well. And just the way that the relationship between that community and the college fit in and interacted with the greater society's racial relations. That's something that we have an opportunity to pay more attention to now and to celebrate. So that's something that I hope will be pursued.
Yeah, I could just say, being on the History and Memory Committee, our report comes out late October, early November, and one of the things that, you really discuss it is, celebrate the history that has not been shared before.
Exactly.
Lift up the fact that Elon wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that community.
That's right.
Things like that. So I think there's more work, and I think now, I'm so glad that we are now in that place where we are in exploring and investigating and unearthing this important history. So thank you. So as we wrap up, I really want to thank everyone for coming today and sharing stories. And I will open it if there's any last things folks want to talk about. And if not, I will say thank you. And Michael, do you have?
Well, just the same thing. I would just like to say thank you for this opportunity, and again, just the opportunity I've had to work at Elon for almost 22 years. Which when I first got here, I didn't think I'd be here this long, but that's life, and it's been a good place to be.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a team effort and a collaborative place. And yeah, when I came, I've most of my career in libraries and archives. If you want to grow or expand, you have to go somewhere else. And I haven't found that to be the case here at Elon. Like at Elon, they I didn't think I was going to stay. And like every year I'm just like, I can't leave. How can I leave this? So yeah, it definitely does something to you.
Well, so Crystal, I'll give you a shout out. You can't go anywhere, honey. So as we were going through my parents' belongings after my dad died, you could not ask for somebody kinder and more compassionate than Crystal was. To come in at a time when you're grieving and you don't want to let go of stuff, but you know you're giving it to good hands and it's going to be well taken care of. And so we were able to put stuff in the Elon archives for other people to enjoy because we knew it was in good hands. So Crystal, keep those hands right there.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And
It was a pleasure to work with you during that time.
yeah, I just feel lucky and fortunate that I got to experience Dr. Danley. We got to do an oral history with he and Adam, and that's when I knew that Elon was special, when I got to see Adam and Dr. Danley's relationship, and the history. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of encapsulates, you know, the what Elon is, you know, it's community, but it's engagement, it's transformation, it's great people doing great things from the students, faculty, and staff. So, so thank you for sharing all your memories and thanking me and others for things. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Say thank you and take care. See you soon.